Hey Dad, aren't you gonna get the doorbell?
Okay. Yes. It's here. Hey everybody, I'm so excited to say that my Monza 24-inch BMX bike arrived today, and I can't wait to get this thing unboxed and built up and then take it for its first spin around the neighborhood. Quick spoiler alert, I've been riding this thing around the neighborhood for a couple of hours, and it is awesome. It is everything I hoped it would be. I feel like the frame geometry was designed exactly for what I want to do, and I could not be happier with it. And I was so excited to see that on the box here it says, "The adventure starts in your own backyard." And I really connect with that. And so for me, once I get this thing built up, I'm gonna start in my backyard and then I'm gonna go cruise around the neighborhood. All right, let's go ahead and open it up and get our first look. All right, let's see. Got the seat post here. There we go, look. And then what else we got in the box? Got a small box. This is probably pedals. Got pads, and then a chain guard. So my first impressions after getting this thing out of the box is that the packaging material is amazing. This thing is protected really well. All of the exposed chrome is covered up with these foam tubes, and then they're secured with zip ties everywhere. Everything is really tight together. Nothing was really shaking around in the box, so I'm really excited about the quality there. And just first kind of glimpses at the chrome and everything. Obviously we'll get a better look once we get all of the packaging materials off, but it looks beautiful. All right. Okay, so we've got our bear trap pedals. I'm excited about these. Got a little package with reflectors, and there's a little bell in here. We've got the owner's manual. And then lastly, inside the box, we've got two extra sets of brake pads. One is a Skyway brake pad, and then the other is a Cool Stop Supra 2s. I did ask Thomas over at Monza. I saw that these were included in some other folks' bikes, and I was kind of curious what his thoughts are on using one or the other over what the stock pads are. And he actually said the stock pads are fine, that there's no issues using those, that they just had some extras of these from a previous project, and they thought they would share them with the customers and kind of just a little bonus for us. So I'm not sure if I'll put these on now or later. It might be good just to have them on deck in case I do wear the stock ones out, but we'll see. Okay, so after giving everything a quick once over to make sure that everything looks safe and sound and I have a good understanding of what all the parts are, I'm ready to get this thing assembled. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on my bike stand. You don't need a bike stand. You can totally put this together on the ground, no big deal, but it is a little bit easier on the bike stand. And then I'm going to lift up the bike and clamp away. Get that tight so it's not going anywhere. You don't need fancy tools, just a few will do. 15mm socket or wrench. You're going to use that to attach the front wheel and do any adjustments on the back wheel. You'll need primarily a 6mm Allen key, and you're going to use that for the seat post clamp and up on the stem. And then in this case, we'll use the 5mm on here to do any adjustments on the brake shoes on the back. After that, we'll use 10mm wrench, and we can use that to do any adjustments on the brake shoes up on the front. 15mm wrench to attach the pedals. A little bit of grease. You'll want to use that on areas where you're installing threads into the metal. So the pedals, you'll probably want to put a little bit on the seat post tube. We've all heard those stories of bikes that have been sitting around for years and they get seized up in there, especially closer to the coasts where there's more salt in the air and things corrode. This will keep that from getting bound in there. And really, that's about it. So let's go ahead and get the rest of the packaging material off, and then we'll get started. Be careful that you don't cut into the brake cable. As I was removing the packaging material, my first impressions as I'm getting up closer and getting a closer look at the chrome and the welds is I'm really impressed with the quality and craftsmanship here. I have a 2017 GT Pro Performer heritage bike, as well as a 2022 Hutch Trick Star reproduction bike, and I have a 2021 S&M Dagger bike. And these welds look really good. They're far superior to both the Hutch and the GT. So I'm really happy with this. This is really outstanding. So now we're ready to install the front wheel on the bike. I went ahead and took off the nuts and these washers to make it a little bit easier. Just note that these are safety washers. They do have a little bit of an L shape to them, and that top bracket is going to fit into the hole in the bottom of the fork, and that's going to give you some extra safety in case the nuts ever came loose. The wheel might want to fall off, but these will kind of hook in and help prevent a disaster. Make it a little bit easier so I have less in my hands to get the wheel on up here. Hook on that first safety washer. Get this other one on the right side. All right, so now that wheel is not going to come off. So you want to be careful so you get them threaded properly and don't cross thread them. I'm going to go ahead and get the handlebars attached. So need to remove the rest of the packaging on that. And again, the welds look great. It's great. I'm really impressed with the quality of these Tange welds. Grips look great. Everything looks great here. So I'm going to set those down, and we're going to take off the top half of the stem here. All right. Now we're ready to get the handlebars on. And one thing to note is this engraved knurling section on here. You want to make sure that you get it evenly spaced on each side of the stem. Now I'm ready to get the handlebars raised up and start to get them closer into place. Again, paying attention to getting that knurling just kind of right balanced. And then as you tighten down, once you get that initial kind of catch on each one, you're going to want to go in a crisscross pattern. And the point of that is you want the whole thing to kind of be parallel in plane with the top cap with the bottom of the stem. You don't want one side pushing down harder than the other. You want an even pressure. So you're going to go crisscross, diagonally going just a quarter, half a turn each direction, making sure you have even pressure all around. That's good. I can dial everything in a little bit later. Next up, I think I'm going to go ahead and attach the brakes, or the brake cables. These are Dia-Compe MX2 brake levers, and they're designed to work for both calipered brakes and V-style brakes. And you'll see there's a little indicator up here for where this like hook thing needs to go. And so on the V brake side, you want to make sure that it is over here where the V is. And then on the front brake is a caliper style. And we want to make sure that it's up here in this section where it says normal. So we're good to go there. Okay, so we're going to attach the front brake cable first. You'll notice that there's a little hook in here for the end of the brake cable, and then these barrel adjusters have slots in them, and those slots are going to line up with a slot underneath here. And you want to get them lined up and as close in as you can. And then I've got the quick release on the caliper down here adjusted, trying to get as much slack. I'm going to see if I can get this in without having to loosen the slack on the caliper down there. So you're going to hook that in, slide it down, get it in and then just give it a good pull, and then there you go, we're in. And then back there down on the bottom, we're just going to slip that quick release back down for now. We might come back to that when we're installing the brake pads, but that's good for that one. Now let's head over and get our rear brake cable. We're going to hook, pull, and just like that, we're in. So I had decided I was going to swap out the stock brake pads up front for these cool stops that were included so that I could get them to toe in just a little bit better. And as I was kind of fiddling around with here, I did realize that over here on the back side, so there's a quick release lever right here, and it kind of blocks access to that nut right there. And if you are just kind of adjusting that nut here with a wrench, it fits just fine. You've got no problem at all. But I realized if I was going to use this, then that kind of nut has an Allen keyhole there. And so you need to be able to access it from the outside. And this lever right here is totally in the way. There's no way to get in there. And I know I could kind of fiddle with it released and then get the setting just dialed in. But I thought that was going to be a lot of trial error and a little bit finicky, and I decided I'll do that some other time. For now, I'm just going to get these things adjusted so they hit the rim at just the right spot on each side. That one's good to go. And then on this side is almost there. All right, that looks good. All right, so let's give that a test. So there is probably a little bit more play here than I want, but I can adjust that out with these. Looking at the back, they're in a good position already. They're just kind of slanted this way. So there's some adjustment screws on the back of each one. And I'm actually gonna, if just adjusting that, get this one in a little bit. I think that's it. They seem pretty, there's an even spacing on each side. All right, back brake is good. It seems to be pretty well balanced. The cables tend to stretch out when you have fresh ones, so in a few days I'll come back and get everything dialed back in a little bit later. Let's go ahead and do the pedals. So this is the right side, that's the left side. And you definitely want to put a little bit of grease on each pedal so that they don't get seized up over time. When you're putting the pedal on, you want to be careful at first that you don't accidentally cross thread the spindle as it goes in. All right, I'm far enough that I can go ahead and grab that pedal wrench. All right, that side is on. All right, left side is going to be same deal. It has an opposite thread, so you want to twist towards the front of the bike. In both cases, you're twisting towards the front of the bike. On the right side, it's going to be clockwise, and on the left side, it's counterclockwise, but you're still twisting towards the front of the bike. So people sometimes get a little bit confused on which side is the the reverse thread and which one is not. And really just turn the bolt towards the front tires, and then you don't have to remember which is which. Let's see. Got that nice and tight. All right, so we got pedals. The last thing I want to do is check the tension of the chain. I think it's a little bit tight, but I don't think it's too tight. So I'm going to leave it and call that good. We're getting to the final stretch. Got the seat post. So let's go ahead and get the wrapper and materials off of it. Sweet. So I'm actually going to pull the bike off the stand for this. Back to the 6 mil. I'm going to put grease on here. Again, you don't want that seizing up over time. So we'll just kind of, we'll drop her in. All right, so we'll check the height for that. This I'll fine tune outside. I think that's actually a good height. The handlebars are definitely too far forward, I think. Maybe not. They are out of alignment up front, so I'll adjust that next. This is always kind of good just to sit like this, kind of close one eye, and I'm lining up the top tube here with the bottom wheel. And I'd say that looks pretty good. So on these also you want to do alternating pressure. So get it just so it snugs up, and then I'll give them kind of equal turns. I do think I want the handlebars up just a little bit. Okay. About like that. All right, so really just one last thing I want to do right now, and that's adjust the position of the brake levers. And generally you want them to follow kind of the angle of your arm down as you're riding. So I'm going to have them out somewhere about right there. Loosening that. Again, I would say that's good. Okay, last thing you want to do is just give it a once over of all the other bolts and make sure everything is still tight, that nothing got loose from the transportation over to your house. I think everything is basically good to go. So that's it. Let's take it for a ride. Okay, so the box that the bike came in, it says your adventure starts in your own backyard. So here we are in my own backyard. I've got a couple of last finishing touches before we go on our first adventure, and that's getting these really sweet BMX pads on the frame, and then getting the tires up to the proper pressure. The tires themselves indicate a max pressure of 40 psi, so that's what we're going to go with. So let's go ahead and get these last steps completed. And 40 on that one. All right, and then next up we got the pads. Okay, so the bike is together. It looks amazing out here in the sunlight. The chrome is so reflective. It looks beautiful. The fit and finish is outstanding. Before we head out on our first adventure, let's take a little closer look at some of the materials and craftsmanship and the components. And so, like I said, out here in the sunshine, this frame looks amazing. The chrome is super shiny. The finish is great. And then taking a closer look at the welds. Again, I'm really happy with these welds. They look really high quality, especially for the price and value of this frame. This frame was manufactured by the legendary company Tange. All right, so there's a little bit of confusion on how to pronounce the name Tange all over the internet. Some people say Tange, some people say Tang, some people say Tangi, some people say Tange. And with it being a Japanese name, I looked up the correct Japanese pronunciation, and it's Tange.
Tange. Tange.
And so that's what I'm going with, Tange. And yeah, Tange is a classic bike manufacturer. If you're familiar with Kuwahara bikes back in the day, those were what the ET bike was. Tange made those bikes, or manufactured the frame sets and the tubing for those, and they're still making quality parts today, and clearly it shows here. These are outstanding. Thanks again to Thomas and the Monza team for being willing to partner with me on this video series. They graciously sent this bike out for me to make these couple of videos. And if you're not familiar with Monza BC, the BC stands for Bicycle Club. So Thomas, the founder, he's like many of us. He was super into BMX bikes when he was a kid. And he and his buddies had a secret bicycle club that they'd go on adventures when they were kids. And when he was an adult, him and his buddies were having some beers and they were reminiscing back on the good old days. And they decided it would be fun to recreate a modern BMX with modern technology that really had those old school look and feel and handled like those old bikes that they remembered. So they created their own bike company, and I just love that. I love that their motto is your BMX all grown up. They've got a passionate following of BMX enthusiasts who've been riding these bikes for the last few years. They've got a super active Facebook group where folks are sharing how stoked they are on their Monza bikes and what upgrades they're doing and what adventures they're taking them on. It's really cool to be part of that, and so I'm excited to be part of the bike club myself now. And so if you're interested in a new bike, I highly recommend you check out Monza. Their website is monzabmx.com. So before we go on our first adventure, let's just take a couple of moments and give a quick rundown of all the parts here and get a little bit closer look at the chrome and the welds. This is a 24-inch cruiser. It's on the smaller size of the cruiser class, which is typically 24, 26, and 29. This bike's going to be a little bit more agile and nimble and lighter weight than those other bigger bikes, so it's going to be a little bit more responsive for some more aggressive riding. But the cool thing is this frame in particular has a 22.5-inch top tube here, so that opens up the frame a little bit and gives you just a little bit more space, so it feels a little bit larger than it is. The handlebars here have about a 10-inch rise. The GT Performer Cruiser that I have, its handlebars are a little bit lower. They're about an 8-inch rise. So for me, I prefer these larger, more upright handlebars. It feels more like the bikes that we rode back in the day. Up front, it has a 1 1/8-inch integrated headset, also from Tange. The stem here is an alloy. It's chrome plated. It looks amazing. It's beautiful, and it's got about a 50mm reach. The brakes on the bike are all from Dia-Compe, another legendary Japanese manufacturer. It's got a traditional caliper style brake on the front. It's got Dia-Compe MX2 levers, and then here on the back it's got V brakes, which will give you a little bit more stopping power than the typical caliper brakes will. And so yeah, I've got these brakes dialed in. I think they're going to be great. And then moving towards the back, we've got a Monza seat. It's got some nice padding right here with a really cool logo. It's got a chromoly seat post. It came with a layback seat post as well as a straight one. Tange seat post clamp. And then moving down into the drivetrain area, we've got 3-piece cranks. They've got a 175mm crank arm length, which is a nice kind of medium level length. It's got bear trap pedals with the Monza branding on that. It's got a 44 tooth chain ring, anodized gold. I love how they've got kind of their gold sunset vibe throughout the bike. And then it's got a YBN chain. I love how the inside is kind of more traditional, but the outside is flat. Kind of just gives it a kind of unique, special look to it. And then we've got a 16-tooth freewheel here in the back with the Skyway mag wheels, the Tuff wheels. They look amazing. They really bring me back, great throwback to the 80s vibes there. It's got Kenda Comp III tires, the old-fashioned kind of butterfly, knobby style tires. We've got those up to 40 PSI. And then overall, the bike weight, according to the website, is 26.9 pounds, which is a good weight for a bike this size, especially with the mags on it. So yeah, I'm so excited. This bike looks amazing. Let's get going. Okay, so I've been riding this thing around the neighborhood for the last hour or two, and I am so excited. I feel like this bike, the geometry is perfect. I feel like it was made just for me. The smaller wheels make it a little bit more nimble. I can go around corners a lot faster. It's easier to do like little bunny hop jumps off the curbs than on my bigger bike. And yeah, it is just a fun and sweet ride. The brakes work really well. I was surprised at just how much stopping power they had. After riding it for a little bit to dial it in, I am going to raise the seat post maybe about an inch, and the handlebars I'm going to tilt forward just ever so slightly. But otherwise, this bike out of the box is perfect. It is amazing. I'm so happy with it. If you're anything like me, I think you're going to be happy with it too. And so thanks again to Thomas and the Monza team for being willing to partner with me on this video series. The last video, we talked about the top 5 things you should consider if you're an adult wanting to get back into BMX. And after all of those considerations, I still believe that this is the best next bike for me. I'm very happy with that. My next video is going to be taking this bike up to the local pump track. It's one of the largest pump tracks in the nation. I haven't ridden on a pump track yet. I mostly go up to that area to go skateboarding, but I can't wait to get this bike up there and give it a shot. I'll be filming a few videos on that, what my experiences are as a newbie, and some of the tips and tricks that I learned from the other guys as I kind of get more competent, and I'll keep you guys updated on that. In the meantime, I've got a box of new skateboard parts that just arrived, so I'm going to be building up a new old school skateboard to take up to the skate park. So if you're into skateboarding, stay tuned for that. Otherwise, we'll be back with some more bike stuff here pretty soon. Thanks.